Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Thursday, June the 5th, which makes this the news for Wednesday, June the 4th, day 1197 of Russia's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine, or 3 years, 101 days since the full-scale invasion began. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital that is currently under siege. I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Steve-O. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Anthony, Tommy, Tom. Who else is here? Richard Prexis, how you doing? Hey, Scully. How's everybody doing tonight? It has been quite a 72 hours, hasn't it? It really has been quite a 72 hours. Hey, Big Hawk. What is that, an octopi? An octopus? Hey, Rob Walker. Rob Walker, haven't seen you in a while. Hey, Chef Deb. Hey, Patrick. How's everybody doing? Peeps are coming in. We have a brand new sponsor for tonight. First time sponsoring a live. Hey, Mad Mike. First time sponsoring a live, Anna Rivera. So everybody, if I don't know what Anna's TikTok handle is. She did not respond to my email. Hey, Chris Carter. Hey, Chris. Hey, Nightshade. Everybody knows Nightshade has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. If you don't follow us there, please do. Hey, PH. Hey, Mike Kelly. Don't ever, there's no choice there, Rob, right? There's just no choice, pal. I don't blame you at all. Hey, Little Red. Hey, Bernard. Hey, Rocco. What's up, laddie? Hey, Jan. Hey, Bjorn. Sweden's in the house. Well, if Sweden is in the house, then I think we can begin. So it has been quite a 72 hours. It really has been. Let's talk about a couple of things here. Last night, the Russians sent 95 drones at the territory of Ukraine. Hey, Mel. 61 of them were taken out. That's a 64% interception rate. Now, have you noticed that the interception rate for the drone strikes has been falling? And it's, and it's crazy because some nights, the night that there were 472 drones, the interception rate was like 84%. Then last night when there were only 95, it was only 61%. And I'm having a real hard time figuring that out given that Ukraine was running at a better than 90% interception rate. So why would that be? Are they running out of air defense? That should be a real concern to all of us, especially those of us who depend on it every day. Or is it something else? And I just don't know. I think, Mel, that's probably the concern. A lack of air defense. And yet, we see the Air Force increasing its capacities and capabilities every single day. There is a part of me, now I want to highlight that what I'm about to say next is pure speculation. No one should listen to it. It cannot possibly be true. But it did occur to me, the Ukrainians, they underpromise and overdeliver, which in my life has been a recipe for success always. Underpromise, overdeliver. Yeah, I'll review your website and then turn over page after page of documentation on what needs to be fixed, for example. Now, could it be, and again, pure speculation on my part, could it be we know that the Ukrainians can tell the difference between decoys and attack drones. We've known that. If you follow this channel, I first speculated about that back in November. Today, we're sure of it because they tell us every day how many decoys they shot down and how many attack drones they shot down. So if they can tell the difference between attack drones and decoys, and if they're running low on air defense assets anyway, which I think is a real concern. I don't know, but there are whispers about that. Could it be that they're just letting a bunch of decoys go to save time and energy and because they don't really matter? I mean, that's crazy, right? What would be the benefit of letting your enemy think you can't shoot down their shit? Maybe because you can. I don't know. That's crazy talk. I'm a crazy person. No one should listen to that. That's nonsense. What is not nonsense is that the Russians are less than 10 days away from hitting the grim milestone of 1 million casualties in this war. Hey, Cynthia. 1 million casualties, less than 10 days away. If the casualty rate is the same every day as it was today, then in just 9 days, that will be the case. Meanwhile, the Russians are acting like they're winning. The shit coming out of the mouths of Moscow, the shit talking coming out of Moscow is unreal. These people are so divorced from reality, so entitled, so playing the victim card that you don't even know where to begin with them. So Dmitry Peskov did acknowledge that the bridge was hit, but he claimed that there was no damage. The bridge is functional, at least the car section of the bridge. The damage was done to the rail section. Right, the Kerch bridge, the Kerch Strait Bridge is really two bridges. There's a 4-lane car bridge, 2 lanes each direction, and then there's a 2-way rail bridge, right? And the bridge roughly runs east to west across the Kerch Strait. The explosions happened under a support column for the rail bridge. Now, I can't imagine that a ton of explosives could be put at that support column and you can still run trains over that bridge. I don't know, though. Maybe the Russians will try it. For right now, there is 1 lane open on the car bridge in one direction 3 hours at a time, and they are going back and forth. They're not entirely independent, Fitz. They're not entirely independent. The cross bracings support each other. So if you know what, I'll do a video tomorrow and I'll get some good pictures of the Kerch Bridge and I'll get some superstructure images and we'll go through them. That's a good idea. I should do that. Crimean Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. That's funny. All right. Now, regarding the hit against strategic bombers, Bloomberg is reporting that 7 Tu-95s were destroyed along with 4 Tu-22s. The New York Times is saying it's 6 Tu-95s and 4 Tu-22s. We all seem to agree on the Tu-22s. Ukraine, for its part, is taking credit for 41 planes. They are taking, and definitely, I've seen enough satellite images because now we've got satellite images from 3 of the 5 bases. And there's definitely more than 7 Tu-22s and more than 4 Tu-22s. There may even be a Tu-160 in there. And there are definitely 2 A-50s. So we got satellite image yesterday that confirmed the destruction of 1 A-50, and now we have satellite imagery today that brings that count up to 2. The Ukrainians, on their daily losses of the Russian Federation, The number of planes destroyed in the war jumped yesterday overnight from 384 to 413. They are taking I don't know what that means. They are taking credit for all 41. Now, this has had, I cannot stress enough, the immediate impact of this decisive bloody nose that the Russians got this weekend. The first thing that has happened is that apparently the entire strategic bomber fleet has been moved 4,000 kilometers to the east away from Ukraine. What's left that can fly is out of here. That has now turned the 800-kilometer round trip from Engels Air Force Base to hit Ukraine to 8,000 kilometers round trip. Huge difference. I want to point out something that Darth Elsa pointed out. If you don't follow Darth Elsa, the guy's great, man. And he does updates all the time, and he's got real insight. He's actually a military person, unlike me. And he did a video today where he showed some drone footage, and under the wing of one of the targets that the drone hit is clearly visible a cruise missile. And the point that Darth Elsa made was, hitting these planes saved Ukrainian lives. They were already loaded to hit Ukraine, and now they're not getting off the tarmac. That's an immediate outcome of this hit, as is their withdrawal 4,000 kilometers away. Trump and Putin had a call today. Apparently, Putin needed to let Trump know that he had to respond to this hit against his aircraft. And he is going to respond strongly. He's going to respond very strongly, according to a post on Truth Social that the Donald made following the call with Putin. Quote, he will have to respond very strongly to the attack. Now, rather than being grateful to Ukraine for disabling an entire leg of Russia's nuclear triad, Trump seems to have granted Putin yet another two bouquets of flowers today. Trump is apparently fine that Putin has to take a strong response to this attack. Apparently, Trump told Putin, no worries, pal, we got your back. If you nuke Kyiv, we won't do anything, right? I believe the conversation went something like that. On the subject of nukes, it's not going to be Donald Trump that's going to stop it. It's going to be Xi Jinping and Narendra Modi. Because if Putin makes the same calls to them, they're going to tell him to sit the fuck down. That he started this and he better not go nuclear. The idea that we are living in a world where it's possible that the president of the United States told Russia to go ahead and nuke anybody you want, and the restraint is going to come from the Indians and the Chinese, is just living in the upside down. It's insanity. Insanity. And it gets worse. I have a couple of things here. The other bouquet that the Donald handed to this genocidal lunatic in the Kremlin was that Russia's going to help America in the talks with Iran over their nuclear program. Inconceivable, right? Just inconceivable. The Ukrainians, for their part, are not taking a day off. Explosions struck a military convoy in Rilsk. That's inside Kerch Oblast. That's all the way to the west. Sorry, guys, it's warm in here. I'm going to open this door. I meant to leave it open. Try to let some air in here. There we go. Okay. So in Rilsk, a military convoy was struck today. We're not sure. We think it was drones, though it could have been a HIMARS strike or some other strike. But there were reports of drone activity in the area. In Sumy, the Russians just keep coming across the border. There's 50,000 Russian troops there, according to Ukrainian military intelligence, and their job is to open a new front up in Sumy, which just seems like complete insanity. I mean, your whole push is down in Pokrovsk and Toretsk. Why would you open another front and thin your lines out worse? It makes no sense, except that I think Putin does believe he's winning. He thinks that he's going to be handed everything. He thinks that the Ukrainians are just going to walk out of the rest of Donetsk and hand it to him. They're going to do the same. So any oblast in Ukraine he can get a toehold in, he thinks he's going to be able to claim the entire thing as his own and get the Ukrainians to withdraw. I do not believe any such thing is going to happen. I don't believe anything remotely like that is going to happen. But the Russians did advance and take 2 more towns just north of Sumy. Now, after this, they're coming up against natural defensive barriers. There's a series of rivers there. Whether they'll be able to cross those rivers and make any further gains, or if they'll just spread out along the border, is anybody's guess. And we're watching that situation evolve. In the Liman direction, Russia claimed that it had captured another village, but we did not get a confirmation of that from the Ukrainian side. The Russians continue to push northeast of Toretsk, and again, most of the fighting of yesterday's 147 attacks by the Russian Federation, fully half of them were in the Pokrovsk direction, mostly in the northeast and in the southwest, as Russia tries to continue to envelop or encircle the city of Pokrovsk. Small Ukrainian counteroffensives have been reported along the Zaporizhia front line, which is very interesting to me. Remember the summer of 2023? Remember what the Ukrainian goal in the summer of 2023 was? It was to sever the land bridge to Crimea, to get through Zaporizhia to Melitopol, get down to the Black Sea, down by Bryansk, and cut the Russians off from being able to resupply Crimea over land. That would also cut the troops in Kherson off from their principal supply lines and maybe force them to withdraw to Crimea, liberating the Kherson territory. Could it be that something like that is in the cards for this summer, 2 years later? I don't know. But the Ukrainians are counterattacking in Zaporizhia. Russia is facing growing shortages of artillery, even as Ukraine today claims that it has a year's worth of artillery shells on hand. Russia is facing shortages now. So much so that they have been forced to start accepting 140 millimeter mortar shells from North Korea. Now, these are outdated Soviet models that are not supported by the Russian army. So you need both the weaponry and you need both the mortars and the tubes, right, the launching tubes, to be provided by North Korea, and they are coming in from North Korea in the droves. The problem is nobody in the Russian army has ever seen them before, and so they're having some trouble adapting these new weapons into their daily routines. But the good news is that Russia's facing artillery shortages. That's the good news. After at one time in this war, they were firing 40,000 artillery shells a day. Can you imagine? 40,000 artillery shells a day. Now, Ukraine went and blew up a year's worth of artillery shells when they hit the first 51st Arsenal GRAU. Ha! So that is proven to be a problem for the Russians. Britain, the British MOD announced 100,000 drones by April 2026. This is a 10 times increase in drone production. And this is part of the 350 million pound drone initiative that the UK promised to Ukraine. Now, further to that, and that's part of the larger gift of 4.2 billion from the UK. But in addition to all of that, the UK has announced an extra 247 million pounds for drones for Ukraine. So 100,000 drones, a 10 times increase coming to Ukraine from the UK, out of Sheffield, no less, by April 2026. The Ukrainian Navy was showing off some new CV-90s. It got 20 new CV-90s from Sweden and 2 Navy 18s from Estonia. These are all fast patrol watercraft, island hoppers, right? Little fast patrol boats that you can take out to archipelagos and islands, but you wouldn't take out to the deep sea. So shore patrol boats. And this doubles the number of fast defense boats in the Ukrainian Navy. And there are 14 more CV-90s promised from the Swedes by the end of the year. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian Air Force again made history yesterday. For the first time, an Su-27 in Ukrainian service successfully fired a HARM missile into a Russian air defense target. This is a kind of Frankenstein molding of NATO technology, US technology, and old Soviet technology. This is the first successful launch of a HARM missile from an Su-27 fighter. Well done. So everybody's having a good day. The Army's having a good day. The Navy's having a good day. The SBU is having a good day. And the GUR is having a great day. So all of that is good stuff. Yermak, the presidential spokesman, Andrei Yermak, and the deputy prime minister are leading a delegation in D.C. To talk about Lindsey Graham's bill on Russian sanctions, the so-called 500% tariffs on secondary sanctions on countries that buy Russian oil, like India and China, right? And Brazil, the BRICS nations, all supporting each other. They are supposed to talk about the sanctions bill that Graham's got on the floor, the return of stolen Ukrainian children, and the outcome of the Istanbul talks. That part should be a pretty short conversation. Trump said he would not rule out a trilateral talks with Putin and Zelensky. Peskov said that such a meeting was unlikely to happen anytime soon. So Trump agrees to meet with Putin and Zelensky, and Putin shuts it down. Putin's not leaving his bunker anytime soon. He's fucking scared. If there is even still a Putin. We just don't know. Medvedev was running his mouth today. Boy, was he ever. Listen to this. Regarding the Istanbul talks, Medvedev said, "Swift victory and complete destruction of the Ukrainian government is the only outcome of negotiations." Swift victory and the complete destruction of the enemy that just blew up a third of your strategic bomber fleet. These people are delusional. Get this. He went on to say, We do not need a compromised peace based on someone else's delusional terms. He then went on to say that Russia will explode everything. Russia will explode everything. And disappear anyone who opposes Russia's response to the attack on its nuclear triad. Now that is disconcerting. That is disconcerting. The ISW said that this shows Russia's disinterest in good faith negotiations. I would go a little bit farther than that. You know, the nuclear rhetoric up until now has been one thing. Unbelievable. Right, bip, blah, blah, blah. A lot of blah, blah, blah. However, the reality is, and this is an important point to make, that while Operation Spiderweb stunned the world and was without doubt the most meticulously planned and well executed attack of its kind in the history of modern aviation, certainly in this century, it does open a can of worms. Under Russia's nuclear doctrine, this attack on its nuclear triad could well be a justification for a nuclear engagement. Now, again, I think that possibility is still remote, but we have to acknowledge that it is the first time that we're living in a world where the bullshit that the Russians feed us every day that we have become desensitized to, suddenly, at least in the minds of the Russians, the political reality matches their doctrine. And that should be disconcerting to everybody. There's also the need of the Russian state to tighten its grip on its people and shape the narrative. Right now, anybody who's paying attention knows that Russia isn't winning. I mean, Ukraine might not be winning either, but Russia's definitely not winning. They have squandered the entire inheritance of their Soviet past in this war. 22,000 armored personnel carriers alone, very close to 11,000 tanks, 413 fixed-wing aircraft, including 50 strategic bombers since the start of the war, and now 4 A-50s. Not to mention their standing in the world and how the world looks at them. And yet all the while, Putin is telling his people at home that it's just a special military operation, which by definition implies that it is limited in scale. It is not a full-scale war, and that the people at home have nothing to worry about. It will all be conducted on the territory of Ukraine. He has to do something. What's he going to do? We don't know. Could we see a Oreshnik come into this country? I mean, there's a part of me that hopes that is the response, because they are such an unimpressive weapon in so many ways. It would be best if he hit us with those. And I say us because I live here, right? And if I had my choice, it would be Oreshnik over anything else. So which, you know, according to the Ukrainians, he maybe has 10 prototypes of those, and they're $120 million a piece, with a very poor launch success record. So we will see what Russia does, but a response from Russia will be forthcoming. You can be sure of that. Exactly, Steve. So it's a new dawn. Are you talking about the Oreshnik? You don't know what the Oreshnik is? I should define that. I apologize. The Oreshnik is an intermediate range ballistic missile. It's based on the Russian ICBM RS-26. And so it's got, right, so it's a ballistic missile. That means it goes all the way up to the edge of space, and then it comes straight down at hypersonic speeds, reaching speeds as much as 11 times the speed of sound. Very difficult to shoot down. Very, very few systems on the planet would even have a chance of shooting this thing down. Then on top of that, each warhead or each missile is configured with 6 warheads, and each warhead is configured with 6 re-entry vehicles. So every Oreshnik missile has 36 re-entry vehicles that, again, come in at 11 times the speed of sound. The problem is, see, here's the problem, right? And this is why the Russians are so fucking dumb. They're just so fucking dumb. They think that you can take a nuclear missile and then reshape it as a not nuclear missile. And that's not how this shit works. The missile design is intended to hold nuclear warheads, right? 36 separate nuclear warheads. Well, that means if you can fit all them on one missile, then it must be that they're very small. And they are very small. They didn't have to be big when they were packed with plutonium and TNT. But now, if you just want to pack them with TNT, I think I figured it out one time. There's only room for like 50 kilograms of TNT in each one. And because it's traveling at hypersonic speeds of 11 times the speed of sound, it's going so fast that getting the fuses right to the TNT so that they blow when it hits the ground is next to impossible. So what do? You send the re-entry vehicle empty. Just its mass, right? Force equals mass times acceleration. Although Aristotle was actually wrong about that for a bunch of reasons, but let's assume that that's still true. Force equals mass times acceleration. So you have this big chunk of iron that's coming in at 11 times the speed of sound. It'll vaporize anything that's within like a 3-meter radius of it. Shoom, puff, whiff of ozone. That's it. But that's it. That's why there was so little damage in Dnipro when they hit it with the Oreshnik. Yes, they're loud. Yes, they are deadly. I'm not trying to minimize that. If you are in the way of one of these re-entry vehicles, you don't stand a robot's chance in hell. Oh no, snowball's chance in hell. That's the expression. Not a robot. So they have a payload problem with this weapon, and they have a launch problem with this weapon. It's got a 50% successful launch rate. It's not very good, and it'll be very embarrassing for them if they try to send a bunch at Ukraine and half of them blow up in the silos. Because they use ICBM silos, so they're constantly monitored, right? They can't even launch one without letting the Western nuclear powers know that they're launching one. And if they let us know, hopefully one of our nuclear-powered allies will give a heads up to Ukraine, since we cannot count on the United States to do that. And we cannot count on the United States to do that because of people like Darren Beatty. Have you heard about this guy? This Darren Beatty? Unbelievable. This guy is in Trump's administration, of course. He was the architect of deconstructing the Russian task forces, right? The crypto capture task force, which was responsible for seizing the Russian assets of oligarchs who had been found guilty of crimes in the United States. And then the task force that was investigating the crimes of oligarchs in the United States. And then, of course, the Yale research into the stolen Ukrainian children, that database. He was the architect of their destruction. One of the first things that the Trump administration did when they came in, under the direction of this Darren Beatty, they disbanded those task force into Russian corruption. Well, you'll never guess what. It turns out that this guy, why is my live restricted? All right, well, I'm appealing it anyway. Am I still on? I'm still here? All right, so anyway, this guy, Darren Beatty, guess what it turns out? He is married to a Russian whose uncle is an oligarch close to Putin. He has received personal thanks from Vladimir Putin for his great work in the United States. Hey, Kath Brown. He has social media posts that indicate, that advocates the infiltration of the United States government by Russian assets. I mean, just literally promoting treason in his social media posts. I could use some Brill Cream, call. My dad used Brill Cream for a million years. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate that a lot, man. You know, usually most of my lives, I think I'm averaging 33 cents a live these days. I am not on TikTok for the money, guys. That's for sure. The Kyiv Independent, for its part, is reporting that there is the highest level of pushback against the war in Russia that we have seen since the beginning of the war. Now, by pushback, I don't really mean protest or anything like that. Rather, a poll has come out that 64% of Russians are in favor of peace talks. That's up 6% from March. So that's movement in the right direction. Although given that Russian peace talks are just demands for complete surrender, I don't know what value there is in continuing these. The Ukraine, this is like a knife in my heart when I see shit like this. So the Ramstein group is meeting, right? The Ukraine Defense Contact Group. And it's being led for the first time by Germany and UK. The US had led that group. And that's not the first time, pardon me. Since the Trump administration took over, the UK and Germany have been leading the group. But for the first time since the group's inception, the United States isn't even going. The foreign ministers of 50 countries are at the Ramstein group meeting today. We can expect tomorrow, I'll have a list as long as my arm of weapons packages that the rest of the world is coming up with and aid for Ukraine that the rest of the world is coming up with. And Pete Hegseth can't be bothered to go. Now, that would be one thing if he weren't in fucking town. But he's there for the NATO foreign ministers meeting tomorrow anyway. And the U.S. is not represented at the Ramstein group. It's a betrayal of everything that we are supposed to believe in. These people, it's unreal. It's unreal. Okay, that's it for the top line news for me. We can go to Q&A. First, let me thank the sponsor of tonight's live, first-time sponsor Anna Rivera. Hey, if you follow this channel if you are in this live and you do not follow the channel, please follow the channel. Friday is my 2-year anniversary, and I'm like 300 followers away from 40,000. It would be so nice to go into my 3rd year with 40,000 followers. So if you don't follow the channel, please do me a favor and give me a follow, would you? And help me get to that 40,000 by Friday. And I still don't know what I'm going to do on Friday, but we should do something special. Maybe I'll see if I can get Dragon to come in, see if he's around. But we'll see. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate it. So big thanks to Anna Rivera. She's a first-time live sponsor. Magnus, you could get in on tomorrow's shared sponsorship if you like. A couple people chipped in to sponsor a live tomorrow. The PayPal is in the description if anybody wants to sponsor a live. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Jay and Travis, the best moderators on the Tickety Talk. And big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. OMP just joined the Patreon for, I want to say, £10 a month. OMP, I did see your note. I don't know, did I respond to it? Because then I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. I didn't know which social media it came in on. But at any rate, OMP joined the Patreon, and I'm deeply, deeply grateful. I'm deeply grateful to everybody who joins the Patreon. Anybody who can sponsor a live. I could not do this without you. Correct, Magnus. Correct. Can you help put in perspective the Ukrainian drone attack on Russian air bases? So, Mike, we've talked about it a lot over the last couple of days, but to give a kind of high-level overview, the first thing is, it was an innovation in modern warfare, the likes of which we have never seen before. Those drones are literally cheap $500 drones a piece. Now, look, a lot of money was spent to make them all work in the way that they did the other day, far beyond the $500 a piece, right? But $500 drones destroying planes that are worth $350 million a piece. The strategic bomber fleet of the Russian Federation. The Russians had maybe 120 heavy bombers in service on Saturday. As of today, they maybe have about 80. That's a third of the strategic bomber fleet gone. And that's not just $7 billion in hardware. That's hardware that can't be replaced. Perhaps more significantly to Moscow, next level ROI. You ain't whistling Dixie, Mary Z. You ain't whistling Dixie, baby. You are right. So that's not just $7 billion worth of hardware lost. It's $7 billion worth of hardware you can't replace. They don't make those planes anymore. Those production lines have been shut down for years. Moscow doesn't make things. Moscow steals things. Moscow doesn't innovate. Moscow launders money. Give me a fucking break, right? So it's historic. It's a historic attack. But what's important to Moscow is that it was effectively an attack on their nuclear triad. One of the things that all the nuclear powers have is a methodology for deploying their nuclear devices. In the case of the United States and in the case of the former Soviet Union, Russia, it's the nuclear triad. You have missiles deployed on submarines at sea that can be launched at any time. The U.S. is real big on that. You have missiles that are in silos, land-based missiles that can be launched at any time. And then finally, you have your strategic heavy bombers that can launch nuclear missiles from the air. Well, it appears now that Ukraine has broken the leg of the air nuclear triad for Russia. Huge favor to us in the West. Any other American president in history would be praising Operation Spiderweb and the effectiveness of the Ukrainians in crippling one leg of Russia's nuclear triad. The current administration, given that they are puppets of Putin, are instead giving him the okay to hit back and saying stupid things like this was a major escalation on Ukraine's part, or Ukraine should have to make reparations to Russia for those heavy bombers. I mean, it's insane. Those bombers lob missiles and unalive Ukrainian civilians every single day. And the Ukrainians should pay for taking them out? This is insanity. Insanity of the first order. So Russia is going to respond. What they're going to do is anybody's guess, because they ain't got shit left, baby. They ain't got shit left, except maybe a handful of Oreshnik prototypes that might launch, and then nukes. That's all they got. That's all they got. Regarding the attack on the northern submarine base, we don't know what happened there. There is video of explosions and cook-offs and smoke and fire, but it's all in the distance. You can't see what's burning. You can't see what's cooking off. You don't see any conning towers in flames, nothing like that. So there were reports of explosions. There's video of those explosions. The Kyiv hasn't said a word about it. The Russians, for their part, are denying that anything happened. They're denying anything happened at all. Now, if in fact Ukraine did successfully also target the sea leg of the Russian nuclear triad, it would be no wonder that the Russians don't want to admit it, since they have to admit the attacks on aviation. Mike, the last truck was parked all the way out in Amur, Russia, which is 6,000 kilometers from Kyiv. And it appears as though the drones from there didn't get in the air and that they all exploded on the ground, or the majority of them did. However, we got satellite imagery from that airbase. I forget the name of the airbase right now. But we got image from that airbase in Amur of the A-50 that was destroyed. And there is some speculation that that may have been the last working A-50 they had, which is why they had it hidden 6,000 miles away from Ukraine. We just don't know. We don't know that. Are there enough air defenses left in Ukraine to deal with heavy bombardment from Russia? I don't know, Richard. That information is not available to a guy who is really just an asshole with a phone, like I am. You know, I don't know what the status of Ukraine's air defenses really are. Yeah, Mary, that is the concern. There may be, Anthony, there may be one container unaccounted for. It's awfully hard to tell. No, the drones, well, Matthew, I don't know if there was an AI component to the drones. Oh, no, I do know about that, actually. Actually, I do know about that. The drones were controlled by first-person view drone operators. So every drone had an operator that was controlling it. However, the targeting solutions were AI trained to identify the bombers that were the targets. So the drones were trained out in Poltava. There's an air museum here in Ukraine. And on the territory of that museum, they have a museum quality Tu-22, a museum quality Tu-95, a museum quality A-50, right? They have all these planes in this air museum. So the guys from the SBU team that did this, Malyuk's, Lieutenant General Malyuk's team, took the drones out to the Air Museum and trained them to identify the targets. I think because if the signal to the drone operator was lost, then they'd be able to deliver the payloads in the final seconds themselves using their own discrimination algorithms, right? But for as far as we know, there were drone pilots for each of them. So they weren't controlled by AI, but they were trained in AI. Yes, I've got a phone. That was the question. Uh, okay, guys, we have about 7 minutes left. So again, I want to thank Anna Rivera, the sponsor of tonight's live. Anybody wants to sponsor a live, the PayPal's in the description. Anybody want to join the Patreon like OMP did and help keep me in Ukraine? Every $5, $10 a month member makes a difference. I can't tell you. And things are tight. Like you can tell the economy's going bad already. I only came through with the rent because of a couple of very generous Patreon supporters who helped me get the rent together this month. I would prefer not to go into July that way. So if anybody can help me out, join the Patreon, help keep me in Ukraine, that would be great. Like OMP did. Thank you, OMP. And so many other people have too. It's just OMP was today. Big thanks to Anna Rivera, who's a first-time sponsor of the live. Thank you, Anna. Big thanks to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. Join us there. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, and to Jay and Travis, the moderator team. Best moderators on the Tickety Talk. Thanks to all of you out there who are interested in Ukraine. It is easy in a country not at war to ignore the suffering of those who are. And you all choose not to turn a blind eye to this country in its time of need. And for that, I thank you personally. Who said that? Bip, thanks, pal. You know, so last month I lost a $70 member, and that hurts. But it was made up for by like 12 new people at like $5 a piece, a little bit more for some of them, right? And guys, I would give anything. Like if I could just get another 100 people at $5 a month, I'd be golden. I'd be golden. And I would prefer that to having like, you know, a corporate sponsor that's going to tell me what to say. That's never going to happen. Like that's nothing like that is ever going to happen. So if you sell something, I am probably not interested in promoting it. So I forget who the last guy that joined, Alan, a kid named Alan, who I don't know who that is. But a kid named Alan just joined for $5 a month, and that made it to 70, right? I leveled out. The loss was, everything's exactly the same. Now OMP puts me 10 pounds ahead now. So a few more Patreon supporters would make a big difference in my life, guys. And more followers. I'd like to hit 40,000 by Friday. So for my 2-year anniversary, we can celebrate 40,000 followers and 2 million likes. 2 million likes. Thanks. Try to do it. Oh, Andrea, thank you. Andrea, your comments. I do read all the comments on most of the time anyway. Sunday was a little crazy, so I couldn't keep up, but most of the time I read all the comments. And comments like the ones from Andrea that I see on a regular basis these days are always intelligent, to the point, with a cultural frame of reference rooted in democracy and freedom. I mean, those are the people I want to talk to. So, Andrea, thank you. Thanks, Pip. I appreciate it. All right, kids, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm going to call it a night. Thanks again to Anna Rivera, the sponsor for tonight's live. Thanks to Chris Carter, who was our sponsor last night and a longtime supporter of the Patreon. Thank you, Jan, for the gifts. Thank you, Michael Boucher. Michael, don't worry about me. You get better, brother. Talk to me in the near term. Nobody should ever apologize to me because they can't send me money. I mean, oh, Amalek, you snuck back in here again tonight, did you? Ugh. Hey, Bernard. Good night. Good night, Dawn. Dawn was a first-time sponsor of a live recently and is a newer Patreon member. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Hardly. Thanks, man. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks to everybody who helps support this little bit of work that I do here in Ukraine. And thanks for your interest and support of Ukraine. If you can only give $5 a month, I would prefer you give it to United 24. There are enough people out there who can support me without noticing even. Those are the people. Come on, guys. You know who you are. All right. Thanks, everybody. Make it a great day.